we might have a lot of surprises in the form of in most of the Chetaks, what you might have noticed is the first thing to get rusted away. So, hello and welcome to Bose Garage. You might have already watched our part 1 of Bajaj Chetak restoration. We are in the process of restoring our 1992 Bajaj Chetak 12 volt electronic. If you haven't already watched it, we will give you the link in the I button. So this is our second stage of the restoration of our scooter. So we have to start with the body work. So we dismantle the scooter completely and we have scraped off all the old paint and putty and body filler, because the most important part of any restoration is the body work, followed by the mechanical perfection. Without removing the old paint and putty, we never really know what all hidden stuff is underneath that. We might have a lot of surprises in the form of so much rust particles or rusting, or there might be so many old patchwork which was done improperly that affects the original shape of the Chetak. Those who have seen a brand new Chetak or a Chetak in factory paint might have noticed all the design elements in that particular scooter. But like this is a 31-year-old scooter and so much of the design elements have got rusted or became out of shape. So we are going to describe you in detail, part by part, what are the factors to be considered when you are doing the body work on a Chetak. So there are so many design elements which we would like to share with you, and we will help you out how to regain everything back to the factory perfection. So let's get into the video. So now let's look at the front mudguard. What are the things to check and what are the points to remember? Basically in the front mudguard, always we will get rusting issues at the front as well as at the rear. Here you can see there are two holes. These are for the aftermarket mud flaps. We are not planning to fix those mud flaps, so we'll be closing these holes. And if there is any rusting, you should ensure that you will replace those parts. In the front also we need to replace this much area, and we have to completely reshape the mudguard because it is totally out of shape. We tried to find an old mudguard, original one, but we were not able to find anything in good shape. This one was even better, so we thought of working on the same original one. On the mudguard you can see that there is this line which is actually a design. In most of the cases these might have become flattened out, and in this case it is totally deformed. So we have to reshape this area, ensuring that this line is not gone. We should ensure that this line is very sharp and prominent. This is a design element, and you should tell your painter that not to put too much body filler or putty here so that the line becomes smoothened out. It should be sharp. Another thing on the mudguard is you can see that there is a rib at the bottom portion. This is around close to 1 centimeter wide, and towards the front end it starts to become thinner. Luckily in this mudguard that lining is there, it's prominent, but it has already deformed. So we need to flatten this area and ensure that this line is made prominent. This is actually a design element and it comes up to the front. Here if you look at it, it is completely gone. So when you replace it with a new piece, make sure that this rib is restored. This is also a very good design element, and normally I have seen it only on brand new Chetaks when I was a kid. Most of the Chetaks after restoration lose this design element. So that's all about the front mudguard. Let's look at the other part. So now let's talk about the headlight nacelle. This is an aluminum part. As you can see, it is not completely scraped off. We will be doing it later on before painting. There is not much work to be done on this part. However, as this is an aluminum part, you can see there are two threaded holes in this location. This is for fixing the headlight. And most of the cases in these old scooters, people might have put the bolts in the wrong direction or like cross thread, and the threads might have been damaged. So whenever you dismantle, you ensure to check the threads. If it is short, ensure that you retap the thread with the proper size screw or bolt. Otherwise, after painting, if you find it out, then it will be difficult to restore it. So these two things, these two holes, you should ensure that the thread is restored. Now another thing, on the headlight nacelle we have the gear shifter shaft and the accelerator shaft. So this is a 31-year-old scooter. It might have done maybe more than 1 lakh kilometer, and over a period of time this will start to have wear and tear. And on the gear shifter side, the play is not too much, but there is a considerable amount of play. On the accelerator side, it is a bit more high. So what you need to do is, before you send it for painting, you have to send all these 3 parts to a good lathe machinist. Ask him to rectify the play by inserting bushings inside. Not really all the lathe machinists might know how to do it. You should find a really good old lathe guy who might have worked on Chetak scooters. He will know what to do. It is actually a simple job for him. He will get it rectified. If you don't rectify, over a period of time, this excessive play will increase, and as a result you will damage, or this part might get broken off. Then you will have to search for a new headlight nacelle, which is almost impossible nowadays. Now let's check what needs to be done on the fuel tank of the Chetak. As you can see here, there are multiple dents on the top surface, and as a reason we are not able to close the fuel tank cap properly. So we need to reshape this area. Actually it should be a bulging shape. We need to restore it. And another thing is, we have already scraped the paint off from the top surface. You can see the weld joint across the fuel tank. Actually the fuel tank is made of multiple sheets of sheet metal, and this is a weld joint. In most of the old Chetaks, if you notice, you will not find this weld joint because they have put so much body filler and so many layers of paint, and this weld joint is not visible. But if you have someone who have seen a brand new Chetak, or you got the chance to see a Chetak in factory paint, you will notice that this weld joint is very prominent even after painting. So tell your painter not to put any body filler on the weld joints. After painting, this weld joint should be clearly visible. That is actually an originality or a perfection. Another thing that you need to check on the fuel tank is, okay, here we haven't removed the fuel tap or anything, and we are yet to scrape this area. Normally you don't face any leakage issues with the Chetak fuel tank because you always mix oil with petrol. But in some rare cases, if the Chetak was kept unused for a long time, there is a possibility that it will start rusting here and might have developed some pinholes. So what you need to do is, you need to scrape the paint off at the bottom area, check for any pinholes or any leaks, and if there are any leaks, you need to send it to the patch worker or the body worker to get it rectified. But one important thing is, before you do any patchwork on the fuel tank, make sure to wash the internals properly, because there will be still traces of fuel. And the moment they bring the blowtorch or anything to do the welding, if there is petrol inside, you know what happens. Disaster, it will explode. Your tank is gone and it might injure the people around you. So whenever you do a patchwork on the fuel tank, make sure that the internals is washed properly with pressure washer and soap. Now let's look at the next part. So now let's look at the side cover, which is on the engine side. So normally the biggest issue faced on this later model Chetaks is this part develops a lot of cracks. As you can see here, there are so many weldings in this area. Because of the vibration, it starts to develop cracks. Even here you can see there is a big crack over here. So all these cracks you need to inspect, and you need to ensure that they are welded properly and then reshaped. On the side cover, the major design element is this line, this grill, and this line. In this side cover, it is almost all totally out of shape. We need to restore the shape of all these lines, and also we need to ensure that this gap is equidistant. All these 5 slots should have the same gap and should be perfectly parallel. And these lines, the bulge, for example, some of them it has become flattened out. That needs to be restored, because this is something that adds character or a beauty to your vehicle. And also this line, this is in fairly good shape. Luckily in this side cover only some minor denting is required in this area, but if you notice this line, this has become flattened out, so this needs to be restored. These are the three things which needs to be checked as part of a design element in this side cover. Then, as I told you, you need to inspect for the cracks, and inside we haven't scraped it yet. We will be scraping it before painting, and you need to inspect the inside also for any pitting corrosion. If there is pitting corrosion, you need to replace those particular panel pieces. So that's about this engine cover. Now let's look at the next part. So now let's look at the storage box, which is the left side cover of our Chetak. This one is also very important because this particular storage box has a problem. Whenever you are riding through the rain, or whenever you wash the Chetak scooter, it accepts water from so many places, like in between this area or from one of these holes. So as a result, it will start rusting inside at the bottom portion. If you notice, already see in this location it has developed some holes. So this is an area which most of the people ignore during a restoration. They don't really care to paint this area properly also. But whenever you do it, make sure you scrape off the paint completely, check the rust spots, and if required, replace the panels, so that, and then repaint it properly. Otherwise, within no time after restoration, this area will start to begin rusting. So make sure to check this area thoroughly. Now let's look at the inside. These are the clamps which we use to fix this part to the main chassis or the main body of the scooter. Most of the times, due to excess vibration, the weld joints of these clamps might have given away. So that one you need to check one by one. If the welding is not proper or has given away, make sure to re-weld it. Otherwise, the problem is once you fix it back after painting, after a few months or few kilometers of riding, due to the vibration, it will again break off. So ensure to check each of these one by one. Ensure that the welding is proper. Now let's come to the design element on the outside. Like the other side cover, the engine side cover, we had some slots here and some grooves. But here that slots is not there. Of course, this is a storage box. Here we have the holes for the lady's footrest. But these lines, make sure they are in proper shape and sharp. And also there is another design element, this line. Luckily in this case, it is in very good shape. And there is a very minor bulge at the bottom end. It runs across the complete bottom. This also should be restored properly, and when you are repainting, ensure to use very less body filler or putty. Otherwise you will lose this shape. If you lose this shape, it will just look blank. Don't do that. Always make sure that these design elements are given proper consideration. Then only it will look good, and it will be as close as possible to the factory spec. So that's all on this side, and just like on the other side engine cover, we need to fix the indicator here, because for this particular model there was a plastic piece that comes here and the indicator comes here. We are trying to find that part. If we find it, we will restore it like that. Otherwise we will have to switch to the new model tail light with integrated indicators. So now let's look at the other part. So now let's look at the front storage box. In the early model Chetaks, like from the late 70s or the early 80s, this was an optional extra. But later in the 90s, I believe they started fixing it on all the scooters. And normally this particular storage box doesn't really need any work. As it is inside, it is less prone to any dents or damages or any corrosion. But however, you can see that there is a prominent design on this one. If that one is out of shape, make sure that you restore it. And then you repaint it with minimal body filler and putty. But in any case, just always check the bottom portion for any rusting. If required, replace the panels as well. If you check on the inside, you can see that there are some oxidation on this area. So the inside also give importance during painting. That's all about this front storage box. So now let's talk about the front nose. Unlike the earlier Chetak had a metal nose which was integrated to the front part of the body. This one had a separate plastic piece with indicators integrated on it. Normally most of the people like the old school look with the metal nose, and people normally throw this away and convert back to the old shape. But I prefer to keep this original shape because this is what came factory fitted on the scooter. As this is a plastic piece, there is nothing to do on the patchwork side. Only thing that you need to be to take care of is whenever you remove it, ensure not to damage the plastic part. Ensure that it doesn't develop any crack also. So be very careful with this part, it is very flimsy. And another thing that you need to notice is that before you do the repainting, you need to scrape off the old paint completely and make it fresh plastic. You can do it very easily. You can do it in just a matter of an hour. But only thing that you need is a paint remover. There are a lot of paint removers available in the market. Buy a small bottle, just apply it on the surface, wait for 5 minutes and use a scraper to scrape off. That's very simple. Only thing that you need to check is when you are using the scraper, don't apply too much pressure or else you will damage the edges. That's the only thing that you need to check out this one. So now let's look at the next part. So now let's look at one of the most important part of any two-wheeler, the wheel rims. These wheel rims are subjected to so much corrosion because of water ingress, as these are in two parts. So you can see this is like beyond repairable condition, so much pitting corrosion, and it has developed some holes and all, and the sheet metal has become thin as well. It is always better to try to find new parts, new original wheel rims. If you can't find original, then the only option is to restore the old one by welding or by replacing parts of the wheel rim. So, and the wheel rim also, you need to ensure that you scrape off the paint completely, make it fresh metal, then do the welding or anything that is required, and always do the painting on fresh metal, because this is something that almost all the people ignore during the restoration. They just clean this up with a piece of sandpaper and then they apply the paint, and within no time it will start to peel off. So make sure that you scrape off the old paint on the wheel rims and repaint it. And especially for the inner part, it is better to use epoxy primer and apply it by hand using a brush, because with spray paint the thickness will be very less. So it is always better to use better to apply using hand. So that's all about the wheel rim. Now let's look at the main body. So now let's look at the main body. What are the things to check when you are doing the patchwork on the main body? In most of the Chetaks, what you might have noticed is the first thing to get rusted away is the platform. And in this Chetak also it is no different. If you notice, the platform was already replaced in the past. You can see the well joint over here. So I didn't scrape off this platform because anyway there is pitting corrosion on this particular platform, and I will always advise you to replace the platform whenever you restore your Chetak. Even now new platforms are available and it will cost you hardly 650 or 700 rupees. Another advantage of replacing the platform is whenever you cut off the platform, you can take a look at the internals of the chassis. For example, in this scooter, the chassis already there is some rusting. So for sure it might have spread inside. So I want to cut off this platform and check inside thoroughly, and I will replace all the metal parts wherever required, sheet metal wherever required. And before I re-weld back the new platform, I will ensure that I will apply some epoxy primer on the internals. So it will be like a rust prevention. Now let's look at the front part. As you can see, this is the original aluminum ornament. Back in the days when the spare was available, always during restoration people used to remove the original aluminum ornament and replace it with a new one after painting. But now these are not available, so I will strongly suggest you not to throw away the original ornament. Just leave it in place, because the area beneath is not subjected to any kind of corrosion, so you can leave the original in place. The aftermarket ones which are available in the market is not so good looking, and it spoils the look of the scooter. And just ensure to check that all the panels are in good shape. If not, just restore it. Ensure that the patchworker brings it back to very good shape, so that you can paint it with minimal body filler or putty. Another thing that you need to check on the main body is the place where you install the bearing half for the cone and ball. Sometimes the people forget to replace the cone and ball on time, and as a result this bearing part will become loose on the chassis, and the chassis will become oval. So when you try to install a new part, it will be loose. So whenever you are dismantling, make sure that to check that one, and if required you should recondition the chassis so that it will fix properly. Now another thing which you need to check on the main body is at the rear part, the rear mudguard. So this area is also subjected to rusting, so check inside and outside thoroughly and replace the sheet metal if required. Another thing that you need to notice is that there is a design element like a small bulge running at the bottom. So whenever you replace a piece, make sure that this bulge is also restored. It's actually a design element that adds character to the scooter. So that's all on the main body. And of course check thoroughly for any rusting issues, and before you send it for final painting, make sure to clean the inside and apply epoxy primer by hand inside, because anyway these parts are not seen outside, so make sure to apply hand paint with proper coverage here as well as in the rear mudguard. That's all about the main body. So we explained to the best of our knowledge about the aspects which we need to take care when we are doing the bodywork on a Chetak. So we hope you all understood it, and we hope that it will be helpful for you whenever you do a restoration of your Chetak. So now we have packed all the body parts of our Chetak into our trusted workhorse, the Gypsy. So we are sending it for bodywork, and all the future updates regarding this restoration will be after completion of bodywork. And then before we send it for painting, we will definitely do a video and we will show you how we have corrected each and every single aspect which we explained in the video. So thanks for watching Bose Garage. See you soon with another video.